Brick by brick, Britain's housing is crumbling further into a state of emergency. Since 1970, the cost of homes in the UK have continued to rise and are now among the highest on earth. So what brought on the crisis and what's the government doing to solve it? At Old Kent Road on the Monopoly board, you're looking at a rather cheap £30 to buy a house. But here on the real Old Kent Road, things are a little bit different. The average cost of a house on this street is an eye-watering £689,000 according to Zoopla, which many of us simply cannot afford.
For a number of years now, rents have been going up year on year, and at the same time, wages, incomes haven't kept pace. And that means that more and more people have a gap between the money they've got coming in and what they can afford. And when there's few protections for people to stay in their home, that puts more and more people under pressure and more people getting into difficulty and losing their homes.
Unaffordable accommodation for first-time buyers and young families is rife up and down the country, with many instead ending up as part of generation rent. So what's the cause? Well, in the 50s, the Conservatives backed an ambitious housing programme that would increase the number of homeowners in Britain. And when Margaret Thatcher took office, she sold off the mounting stockpile of houses and successfully turned British homeowners into the majority.
People want a home they can call their own. The last Conservative government encouraged councils to sell, but all too often Labour councils refused.
So, for those who became homeowners, they benefited from a rise in its original value. And in an effort to keep this up, the government in turn focused on tightening planning restrictions, making building homes in much of the country near impossible. Over the decades, policies like Right to Buy, slashes to councils' borrowing abilities and the deregulation of the private renting sector have led to house prices skyrocketing above what's affordable for the ordinary person. So who's benefiting from the status quo and who's losing out? Well, it seems the driving force behind the rising house prices comes down to the rapidly escalating cost of land. So homeowners, for example, have seen their property value increase and have therefore benefited, especially if they sell up and choose to move abroad. And despite the fact that, according to the Office of National Statistics, over the past 3 years there's been a general slowdown in the growth of UK house prices, owning a home is becoming increasingly out of reach for the younger generation.
Tonight, 320,000 people will be homeless across the country, many of those in temporary and emergency accommodation, and 726 of our fellow citizens actually dying on the streets last year because of what they put through.
Only 6,500 social homes were built last year, down from 39,000 in 2010. Because of this, some of Britain's most vulnerable are confined to substandard accommodation, or in worst-case scenarios are ending up on our streets.
The work that we've done has seen a modest reduction in rough sleeping numbers, around 2% last year. Clearly, as Secretary of State, I'd like to see that be improved dramatically in the months and years ahead. It's shameful that in this wealthy, successful country, we have people sleeping rough on the streets of our cities.
Britain's broken housing market was blamed as one of the biggest reasons why young Brits deserted the Tories and flocked to Jeremy Corbyn at the last election. So, along with scrapping stamp duty for first-time buyers, the government's made a concrete pledge to introduce a £3 billion affordable homes guarantee scheme by 2025. Their current plan is to reach 300,000 new homes a year, up from the current figure of 220,000.
This year, I think we'll go significantly further than that. That will be the largest number of homes we will have built in any year bar one in the last 30 years. So we're getting there, but there's so much more that we need to do.
They're aiming to relax the red tape, so homes can be made bigger and new ones can be built on existing commercial sites without planning permission.
The government have also put a lot of money now into the Help to Buy programme. The Help to Buy programme does help a small number of people into home ownership, but of course what it does is leave unaided a much larger number of people stuck in renting, unable to move into home ownership, and that's one of the reasons that we've got declining home ownership in this country.
Building on green belts will also be allowed where there's already some development, like train stations. Some experts believe that loosening building restrictions on low-quality greenbelt areas could help to alleviate the housing crisis. Of course, there's other solutions on the table too. Schemes like buy-to-let and shared ownership can help to get people onto the property ladder. But only time will tell as to whether the Tory party will once again make decent housing accessible to all, or if Britain's housing crisis will continue to spiral into disrepair.